Hi everyone, Quiveen here from the comfort of my kitchen. In today's video, we are going to look at the solstice. It is now just a couple of days away, but we are also going to take a look at the solstice from the equator and from the southern hemisphere. So here we are, looking at the winter solstice for Ireland, for the northern hemisphere. We'll move time forward just a tiny bit. There we go. So the sun is above the south. We're about 12:30, which is correct. About half past midday, we'll get the sun right over south for us here in Ireland. And as you can see, it's really, really low in the sky. The sun will rise quite late on the solstice. So we'll go back a little bit here. There we go. There's sunlight in the sky by 20 past 8. The sun itself doesn't actually cross the horizon until a little bit later there, almost 9 o'clock. And of course, in the evening, the sun will set very early. There we are, just a little after 4, and the sun is out of view already. So that is the dramatic shortness of the day that we get here in Ireland. Of course, it can be even more dramatic in other locations. So we will go first to, we'll go to the edge of the Arctic Circle, if I can be precise enough. This looks like it should be just the edge. Yeah, so there's the sun at its highest. From this more northerly location, 56 degrees north. We're still outside of the Arctic Circle, but you can see there the sun getting across the horizon by about 9 still, and setting even a little bit before 4. So the day is that little bit shorter when we're a little bit closer to the Arctic Circle. And of course, if we go all the way up into Iceland there, across the Arctic Circle for the winter solstice, we are 10 meters up in the air, so that is going to help us to see the sun over the horizon. But you can see there, incredibly, incredibly low. So this would be, it must be just at the edge of the Arctic Circle. If we were inside the Arctic Circle, the sun would be below the horizon. So we'll have to go a little further north. There we go. So here we are, 71 degrees north, and the sun does not rise above the horizon at all. You can see that it does get brighter. The sun almost rises. We have this sort of dawn going on. But this is, yeah, there's Jupiter, there's Mars. This is as bright as it will get from just inside the Arctic Circle. From just inside the Arctic Circle. If we go significantly further north, we can see there, even in the middle of the day, that's as bright as it's going to get. It is essentially pitch black. This, of course, gets less extreme as we move further south. So if we come down to around here, still significantly above the equator, pretty much the latitude going through the middle of the continental United States, along the bottom of Europe, the top of Africa. This is, this looks like a spring day, or I guess an autumn day here in Ireland. I guess the clear blue sky is making me think more like a spring day. But we can see here that even though the sun is still at its lowest, it's still the winter solstice. It's not that low in the sky. It will rise later, but we can see there 20 past 7, still pretty early. It will set earlier, but here we go, the sun just starting to hit the horizon by about 4:30. So it is that little bit longer. If we keep moving down to the equator, the difference will practically disappear. So we'll come down to just about here first. Yeah, not quite at the equator yet. And of course, it doesn't really look like the sun's that low in the sky at all. This would be pretty much equivalent to how high the sun would get in the sky for a summer's day here in Ireland. And of course, the day is going to be more even, or it'll seem more even. So we can see there the sun coming up before 7 o'clock and not setting. Whoa, went a little bit too fast there. Of course, we can see Venus very clearly there when we're this close to the equator. It's nice and high above the sun thanks to the angle of the ecliptic. But there we go, closer to 5:30 rather than just a little after 4 o'clock as it is for us here in Ireland. Going all the way to the equator, just about there. Close enough. Going all the way to the equator, and we can see the sun's definitely not at the zenith. The sun's definitely not in the middle of the sky. the sun will pass directly across the zenith for the equinoxes if you're at the equator. So this is sort of the lowest that the sun will get in the sky, but as you can see, it's still really close to the center of the sky. This is the furthest south the sun will get if you're at the equator. And then of course for the summer solstice, or the other solstice, of course the seasonality won't matter too much if you're right down at the equator. But for one solstice, the sun will reach its furthest south. There we go, setting at practically 6 o'clock, so a nice normal day length. And over there it will rise pretty close. Yeah, pretty close to 6 o'clock as well. So 6 to 6, 12 hours, normal length of a day. It's still 12 and 12 if you're down at the equator. Now, of course, if you are past the equator, if you are in the southern hemisphere properly, we'll turn around to the north here, because of course it is in the north we will see the sun if we're in the southern hemisphere. This is the summer solstice. So if you are in the southern hemisphere, of course, it's the summer solstice. Most of the other things I've said in recent videos will still hold true. So the geminid meteor shower should still look great. You'll just have a much shorter night in which to enjoy it. And the planets will still look great in the evening. But again, you just won't have as much time to enjoy it because the night will be so much shorter. Of course, the weather might be a bit more mild and favourable, so it might be easier to go out looking for these things. But there's Jupiter, Saturn, Mars, the Moon, and there's Mercury, yep, in the morning. So even though this is down in the southern hemisphere pretty significantly, well, we are only in Australia, so you can see this is 34 degrees south rather than 52 degrees south, so not as far south as Ireland is north, and that gives Mercury that little bit more clearance off the horizon. It does make it that little bit easier to see. That would be true for less extreme northern latitudes as well. So if you are in the northern hemisphere but not as far north as Ireland, then you are going to you're going to get a much better view of Mercury as well. Now here we are, really far south, right down at the southern tip of South America. We can see that the sun is definitely sort of low in the sky, but again, this is comparable to an Irish summer, and at 57 degrees north, or 57 degrees south, further south than we are north, but still, it is comparable. The summer day, as long as the day gets, it will get quite long if you're far enough south, and the sun will get quite high in the sky, but it won't get as high in the sky as it would if you were a little bit less far south, like in South Africa or Australia. So we'll go to morning time here just to take a look at Mercury if we can. Of course, the angle, because we're further south than Ireland is north, the angle is even steeper, and yeah, it looks like the angle is too steep for Mercury to be visible there on the winter solstice. If you're far enough south, we can see even Mars and Jupiter there looking very, very low. Of course, that is because it's summertime. So down in the southern hemisphere, the sun is going to be high during the day, but the planets are going to be low at night. And for us back here in the northern hemisphere, back here in Ireland, of course, it is thankfully the opposite. So we've got the planets very high at night, even though the sun is going to be quite low during the day. Especially here, you can see around midnight with Mars and Jupiter, they're really high in the sky, so it's a fantastic time to look at them with a telescope. So I've spoken a little bit about the solstice over the past couple of videos anyway, talking about how the planets are going to look, but I did want to just say it again that the southern hemisphere is doing the opposite. The southern hemisphere is getting their summer solstice while we get our winter solstice, but for the vast majority of the features in the sky, it's not going to make too much of a difference. For the vast majority of things, the geminid meteor shower is still going to be visible from the southern hemisphere, and all of the planets, they're still going to be visible from the southern hemisphere. While we're talking about the southern hemisphere, just very quickly, I'll see if I can get this in. There's the moon. Going forward to January, there is a comet that should be visible in the morning in January. It was mentioned in a comment on a previous video. Yep, 2024 G3 Atlas. So a commenter mentioned this in a previous video, under a previous video. So thank you for that, for bringing this to my attention. There we go. So there is the comet in January. I'm trying to see when it will be visible because it did seem like it was going to be visible more so from the southern hemisphere. But I want to go around and check. There we are, still in early January in morning time. It may be more visible in morning time than in evening time. I'm not quite catching it here. Oh, there we go, just barely. So just in between Mercury and the Sun there in early January, it looks like there is going to be a comet. It does look pretty faint. Magnitude 3, not crazy faint. Reduced to 5 because it's very low to the horizon there, yeah. So I may touch on this again once we get into 2025, but of course, given that this is in the Southern Hemisphere, if something exciting happens that I'll be able to see from here in Ireland, that will take precedence. But if you are in the Southern Hemisphere, you do have that to look forward to in January. So now I'll bring us back to Ireland, and I will return to apologizing for the ongoing reiteration of the fact that the winter solstice is coming up. But I hope you enjoyed this quick reminder, this quick look at where the sun is in the sky from those other locations around the world, and the fact that it is summer just a couple of hours on a plane. Well, 13 or 14 hours on a plane away. It's summertime even when we're in midwinter. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do like it and subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more content from me. You can also read some of this information on my website, quebeanscontent.ie.